The soft clink of glasses and murmured conversation filled the intimate Purple Leaf wine shop in Towson's historic district. Nima Caldwell tucked a stray lock behind her ear and smiled at an older couple admiring a bottle of high-altitude Argentine Malbec. "That's one of my personal favorites," she said warmly. "The vineyards sit above 6,000 feet, gives the wine that crisp minerality and real depth." "Have you visited?" the woman asked. "Not yet," Nima admitted with a small laugh, "but the winemaker came to last year's festival. We talked for hours. Next time he's bringing videos of the whole estate." The monthly tasting evenings were never crowded, 15 people at most. But that was exactly the cozy, personal atmosphere Nima had always wanted to create. 6 years earlier, the space had been a cavernous, cracked brick warehouse. Now, warm wood paneling, soft track lighting, and carefully curated racks made it unmistakably hers, her sanctuary, her pride. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A curt text from her husband, "Don't wait up." Meeting a potential collector, Nima darkened the screen. Mikey hadn't attended one of her events in months. 6 years ago, she had met him at a contemporary art opening. Mikey Queenland stood beside his installation, a fragile web of metal, glass, and light he described as the brittleness of connection in the digital age. Nima, there with a friend and knowing little about conceptual art, lingered longer than intended. "You've been staring at it for 15 minutes, he said, appearing beside her. "Either you love it or you don't understand it at all." His tone held no arrogance, only curiosity and gentle self-mockery. He was 5 years older, animated, hands constantly moving as he spoke. When she admitted her ignorance of the art world, he laughed. "Honesty is rare here. Most people just calculate price tags and status." A week later, she visited his loft studio. Canvases everywhere, wire sculptures, charcoal sketches, creative chaos. He spoke passionately about making work that unsettled, that refused easy decoration. Nima believed in him completely. She didn't yet know that the fiery artist would, in time, become a man who spent days on the sofa scrolling social media, bitterly critiquing more successful peers while producing nothing himself. The tasting wound down. Nima locked up near 11 and drove home to their small Sam Hughes bungalow, once a shared dream, now mostly Mikey's territory, scattered art magazines, half-finished coffee, an uneaten sandwich. Midnight brought the front door slamming. Mikey smelled of whiskey and smoke. "The collector?" Nima asked neutrally. Flaked. Last-minute excuse. "I'm sorry." "You don't sound sorry," he snapped. "It suits you fine, me staying the loser." The argument followed its familiar script: accusations, defensiveness. Mikey twisting every supportive thing she'd ever done into condescension. Nima finally retreated to the bedroom, staring at the starry Tucson sky, wondering when passion had curdled into resentment. Then came the call no one expects. Monty Caldwell, her reserved, pragmatic father, died suddenly of a heart attack mid-meeting. At the funeral, Mikey wore a suit Nima hadn't seen in years and worked the room of business associates with surprising energy. Later in the car, "What were you and Eugene talking about?" "Just condolences." Mikey shrugged. "And the will?" Practical question. "You asked about my father's will today." "It's our future, Nima. We're married." The mask slipped further in the days that followed. Mikey spoke of inheritance changing everything. Paying debts, buying a bigger house, finally focusing on art without financial pressure. When Nima confronted his eagerness, he accused her of being as calculating as her father. The breaking point came when she caught him rummaging for Eugene's number to discuss the inheritance details. "I want a divorce," she said quietly over morning coffee. Mikey's reaction swung from feigned concern to open fury. Perfect timing, right when the money arrives. He threatened to take half of everything: house, business growth, inheritance. Nima consulted her father's longtime lawyer, Eugene Brooks. What she learned changed everything. Monty, ever cautious, had placed his entire estate into an irrevocable Caldwell family trust. Nima was sole beneficiary. The assets were explicitly shielded from any spousal claim in divorce. Monty had also hired a private investigator. The folder Eugene handed her contained photos of Mikey's affairs, forged loan documents using falsified co-ownership papers for her shop, and a deeper revelation: Mikey Queenland was born Eric Walls. He had 2 prior marriages to affluent women, both ending in financially advantageous divorces. His early original artworks, copies of obscure pieces by other artists, a sealed letter from Monty to the court, opened during the will reading when Mikey protested the trust, ensured the evidence reached the family court handling the divorce. Mikey's lawyer quickly pivoted. Overnight, the aggressive demands vanished. Mikey agreed to take only his share of the marital home sale and personal property, No spousal support, no claim on the shop or inheritance, in exchange for a strict NDA. In the end, Nima walked away whole. The house sold. She bought a smaller place with a porch and garden. Purple Leaf thrived. She expanded into the adjacent space, creating a hybrid wine shop, the Gallery-Et's tasting room with Rowan's antiques and local art. A year later, on the anniversary of her decision to leave, the grand reopening drew a full house. Nima stood under the new sign. Purple Leaf Wine Art, our community, surrounded by friends, loyal customers, and the quiet architect who'd helped design the space. She no longer checked on Mikey's whereabouts. Rumors reached her anyway: plagiarism scandal, galleries closing doors, a move to Las Vegas for casino design work. She felt no triumph, only distant relief that the chapter was truly closed. Under the Tosin stars that opening night, glass in hand, Nima smiled at the simple truth her father had seen long before she did. She was stronger than the life she'd once settled for, and now she was finally living the one she deserved. Abthik High story ko 7 parts mean divide kar dia high. Harpart ko roughly 3,000 words ki kari braka highs exact count nahi hoda lekin content ko expand kark detailed, emotional depth, descriptions. Dialogues are inner thoughts add kai hain take harpart substantial are engaging lage. Ye refined narration high slow pace. Better flow, Zayada vivid scenes. Part 1 Pil de Chukahun ya skip kar re hain jays apni kof, toa Part 2 start kar de hain. Part 2 approx. 3,000 words. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on Evergreen Cemetery, turning dark suits into ovens and forcing mourners to cluster under the sparse shade of ancient mesquite trees. Nima stood closest to the polished mahogany casket, clutching a modest bouquet of white lilies, her father's favorite. Their austere elegance had always reminded Monty Caldwell of unchanging principles: duty, restraint, quiet strength. Now those same flowers felt like fragile anchors against the tide of unreality washing over her. The minister's voice droned on about eternal rest and divine mercy, but the words arrived muffled, as though spoken underwater. Nima's mind kept drifting to childhood memories of Monty teaching her to ride a bicycle on the quiet street outside their old house, his large hands steadying the seat until she found balance, to late night homework sessions where he patiently explained compound interest while she fought sleep, to the day she told him she was opening Purple Leaf, and he'd simply nodded, written a check for the down payment, and said, "Pay me back when you can, but don't ever let anyone tell you it's too risky." He had died exactly as he lived mid-sentence during a boardroom discussion about quarterly projections, tie perfectly knotted, fountain pen still in hand. No prolonged illness, no tearful goodbyes, just a massive coronary that stole him in seconds, efficient even in death. A light touch on her elbow pulled her back. Mikey stood beside her, expression appropriately somber, eyes appropriately downcast. He wore the charcoal suit she hadn't seen since a Phoenix gallery opening 4 years earlier. The fabric still fit perfectly. He'd barely gained or lost an ounce despite the beer and late nights. "Are you okay?" he murmured, voice pitched for sympathy. Nima nodded once, not trusting herself to speak. She couldn't tell whether his concern was genuine or performative. Their marriage had long since entered that gray zone where every gesture carried multiple possible interpretations. Monty and Mikey had never warmed to each other. Her father, pragmatic, numbers-driven, quietly conservative, had viewed his son-in-law's chosen profession with polite skepticism. "Art is lovely as a passion," he once remarked over Sunday dinner, "but a man should provide something steadier for his family." Mikey had smiled tightly and changed the subject, but later, alone with Nima, he'd vented, "Your dad thinks value only exists if it can be measured in dollars." Typical materialist. Now, at the graveside, Mikey behaved with unexpected decorum. He shook hands with Monty's business partners, nodded gravely at condolences, even exchanged a few quiet words with Eugene Brooks, the family lawyer who had handled every Caldwell legal matter for 2 decades. Nima noticed how Mikey's posture straightened when speaking to the suits, as he used to call them with disdain. Today there was no disdain, only careful attentiveness. The brief ceremony ended. People drifted toward their cars, many stopping to embrace Nima or press her hand. Mikey lingered near a cluster of gray-haired executives, phone occasionally appearing in his hand as he typed quick messages. Nima watched from a distance, a small knot of unease forming in her stomach. Nima, Veronica, Monty's executive assistant of 20 years, approached quietly. The woman's brown eyes were red-rimmed but steady. "Do you need anything? Water? A moment alone?" "I'm fine, thank you." Nima managed a faint smile. "Just processing." Eugene would like a word when you're ready. About the will and next steps. No rush. Today isn't the day for paperwork. Of course. I'll call him next week. Veronica hesitated, then added softly, your father was proud of you. Every time someone mentioned Purple Leaf in a meeting, he'd smile that small smile of his, said you built something real. The words landed like warm stones in cold water. Nima blinked rapidly. Thank you for telling me. The memorial luncheon took place at the country club where Monty had held membership for 30 years. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, tasteful floral centerpieces. Nima sat at the head table, responding mechanically to condolences while pushing food around her plate. Mikey moved through the room like someone who belonged. Handshakes, quiet laughter, business cards exchanged. At one point she saw him deep in conversation with Eugene again, gestures animated on Mikey's side, measured on Eugene's. When most guests had left, Nima and Mikey walked to the parking lot in silence. She slid behind the wheel, he settled into the passenger seat without offering to drive. The air inside the car felt thick. What were you and Eugene discussing so intently? She asked, starting the engine. Just offering condolences. He's been with your family forever. Seemed appropriate. Nima glanced sideways. It looked more intense than condolences. Mikey sighed as though explaining something obvious. Fine. I asked about the will. Timing assets, any immediate distributions. Practical questions. You asked about my father's will on the day we buried him. When else? He spread his hands. Your dad was wealthy. You're his only child. We need to know where we stand. Financially, for both of us? Woo. Nima's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Yes, I'm your husband, remember. What a wife inherits concerns her husband. The drive home passed in strained quiet. Then Mikey spoke again softer. Look, I know you're hurting. But we have to think ahead. The inheritance could change everything. Debts paid, bigger house, maybe I could finally focus on a serious series without worrying about rent or bills. No more distractions. Nema pulled into their driveway and killed the engine. My father was buried today. 3 days ago he was alive. I need time to grieve, not plan how his money will solve our problems. Of course. Mikey nodded quickly. I'm sorry. I just worry about our future. Inside, Nema changed into soft clothes and lay on the bed, exhaustion pressing her into the mattress. Mikey appeared several times, asking if she needed tea, water, anything. Each offer felt rehearsed, the concern thin as paper. That evening she sat on the porch alone, watching the sunset paint the sky in layers of orange and violet. Memories surfaced unbidden, Monty teaching her chess on rainy Saturdays, explaining pawn structure with the same patience he used for balance sheets, the way he'd stand at her college graduation, eyes shining with quiet pride, his final phone call, 2 weeks before the heart attack, asking whether she'd considered an MBA to scale Purple Leaf. You're doing wonderfully, but ambition isn't a dirty word, Nima. She hadn't listened then. Now she wished she had. Mikey joined her eventually, carrying 2 glasses of red. Peace offering. She accepted the glass but said nothing. After a long silence he spoke. You know, looking back, your father was right about some things. Financial stability matters. I was too quick to dismiss him as a soulless capitalist. He built something lasting. I respect that now. Nema turned slowly. Since when? Since today, maybe. He shrugged. Death has a way of clarifying priorities. The words sounded reasonable, but something in his tone rang false, like an actor delivering lines he'd only just memorized. The next morning Nima woke to dresser drawers opening. Mikey was rifling through her desk. What are you doing? Looking for Eugene's number. Thought I'd schedule a meeting, get clarity on timelines. Nema sat up. Eugene is my father's lawyer. He'll speak to me when the time comes. But we're married. These things affect both of us? No. Her voice was steel. This is between me and my father's estate. When there's news, I'll tell you. Mikey straightened, face flushing. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. It's about boundaries. Respect, for me. For Dad's memory. Oh, please. He gave a short, bitter laugh. Your father never respected me. Always treated me like some hobby artist who wasn't good enough for his perfect daughter. He worried about me. That's different. He thought I was worthless, an artist. Mikey spat the word like an insult. Maybe it's better he's gone. At least now his money can do something useful instead of sitting in another boring investment portfolio. Nema felt the air leave her lungs. What did you just say? Mikey faltered, realizing he'd crossed a line too far. I only meant his capital could help us. Help me create again. That's all. Get out of my room. Her voice was quiet, dangerous. Nema, you're emotional right now. Get out. He raised both hands in mock surrender and backed away. The door clicked shut behind him. Nema sat motionless for long minutes, trembling. The cruelty of those words, casual, almost relieved, crystallized something that had been forming for months. This wasn't just creative burnout or marital drift. This was a man who resented her father's success so deeply that death brought him relief, not sorrow. She rose, walked to the mirror, studied her reflection, pale, shadowed eyes, but a new clarity beneath the grief. Her father had seen through Mikey years ago. He puts himself first, always. Monty had warned gently after one tense family dinner. You deserve someone who loves you at least as much as you love them. She had defended Mikey fiercely then. Now those words echoed like prophecy. That afternoon, while Mikey was out clearing his head, Nema opened her laptop and began reading Arizona divorce statutes, community property rules, separate property exemptions, inheritance protections. The more she read, the steadier her breathing became. Arizona treated inheritances as separate property unless commingled or retitled. Purple leaf predated the marriage, though its increased value during the marriage could be contested. Still, there were ways to protect what mattered. By evening she felt something close to calm. Not happiness, not yet, but certainty. When Mikey returned, smelling faintly of bar smoke, she was waiting in the living room. I've decided, she said simply. I want a divorce. His keys froze halfway to the bowl. You're not serious. I am. This is grief talking. You're not thinking clearly. I've been thinking clearly for longer than you realize. Mikey's face shifted, concern melting into calculation, then anger. Now, right when the inheritance is coming. Convenient. The timing has nothing to do with money. Don't insult me. His voice rose. You've got it all planned. Get the fortune, cut me loose, keep everything for yourself. Very neat. Nema stood. You see everything through money. That's exactly why this can't continue. He laughed, cold and sharp. You're your father's daughter after all. Cold, calculating, always measuring profit. I supported you for years. Studio rent, materials, exhibitions, thousands of dollars. I believed in you when no one else did. And now you're weaponizing it. He stepped closer. You think you can just erase me? Half of everything is mine. The house, the shop's growth, the inheritance. My lawyer will make sure of it. Nema met his eyes without flinching. We'll see what the law says. You'll regret this, he said softly, almost tenderly. I promise. She walked past him to the bedroom and closed the door. For the first time in years, the click of the latch felt like freedom beginning. Part 3 approx. 3,000 words. Nema drove straight from the house to Eugene Brooks's law office downtown, hands steady on the wheel despite the tremor she felt inside. The confrontation with Mikey had left her raw, but also strangely focused, like fog lifting after a long night. She hadn't planned this visit, yet her car seemed to steer itself here, as if instinct knew she needed solid ground under her feet. Eugene's receptionist waved her through without delay. The lawyer rose from behind his wide oak desk the moment she entered, concern etching deeper lines around his eyes. Nema, sit. You look like you've been through a war. She sank into the leather chair opposite him. I told Mikey I want a divorce. Eugene nodded slowly, no surprise in his expression. And how did he take it? About as well as you'd expect. Threats, accusations. He's already talking about lawyers and claiming half of everything, including the inheritance. Eugene removed his glasses, polished them with a crisp white handkerchief, a ritual she'd seen him perform countless times when weighing words carefully. First things first, he said. Inheritance is separate property in Arizona unless it's commingled or retitled into joint ownership. Your father anticipated exactly this scenario. He was thorough. Nema leaned forward. What do you mean? Eugene opened a drawer and withdrew a thick legal folder bound with red ribbon. Monty created the Caldwell Family Trust years ago, but he amended it significantly in the last 6 months of his life. All his assets, real estate, investment accounts, securities, liquid holdings, flow into the trust. You are the sole beneficiary. The trustee is me, at least until you choose to assume that role or appoint someone else. He slid a document across the desk. Nema scanned the cover page. Irrevocable Caldwell Family Trust amended and restated January 15, 2025. Clause 7 is the key provision, Eugene continued. It explicitly states that trust assets are shielded from division in any divorce proceeding involving the beneficiary. No spousal claims, no equitable distribution arguments, no community property recharacterization. Monty consulted the top estate and family law specialists in Phoenix to make sure it's ironclad. Courts have upheld similar structures repeatedly. Nema exhaled slowly, tension uncoiling in her chest for the first time in days. So Mikey can't touch it? Not a cent. Even if he drags this through years of litigation, the trust language is clear and the structure complies with Arizona statutes. Your father was very deliberate. She traced a finger along the document's edge. He knew Mikey might react this way. Eugene's gaze softened. Monty never said as much outright, but he worried. He saw things in your husband that concerned him. Self-centeredness, inconsistency, a certain opportunism. He wanted to protect you without interfering in your marriage. This was his compromise. Nema felt a swell of gratitude mixed with grief. Even in death, her father was still standing between her and harm. There's more, Eugene said quietly. He opened another folder, this one thinner, unmarked. In the final months, Monty hired a private investigator. Discreetly, he wanted a full picture of Mikey's activities, just in case. He passed her a set of photographs. Grainy but unmistakable Mikey at a downtown bar with a young brunette, arms linked, laughing. Another shot of them entering a motel room. A third of him kissing a different woman outside a gallery. Nema flipped through them methodically. No shock, no tears. Just a dull confirmation of suspicions she'd buried for years. There are also financial irregularities, Eugene added. Attempts to secure personal loans using falsified documents that list Purple Leaf as jointly owned. The banks caught the discrepancies and denied them, but the paper trail exists. Tax filings with questionable deductions. Nothing that would send him to prison on its own, but enough to seriously damage his credibility in court. Nema closed the folder. I don't want to use any of this unless I have to. It feels ugly. I understand. And you may not need to. The trust alone neuters his biggest leverage, but if he pushes aggressively, if his lawyer tries to recharacterize business growth or drag out proceedings, we have ammunition? When is the official reading? Next Wednesday. 10:00 a.m. In probate court, only you and I need to be there formally, but spouses are entitled to attend. Mikey will almost certainly come. Nema nodded. Let him. He should hear it directly. She stood to leave, then paused. Thank you, Eugene. For everything and for seeing what Dad saw. Your father loved you more than he ever said aloud, Eugene replied. This was his way of saying it. Outside, the midday sun was blinding. Nema sat in her car for several minutes, engine off, letting the heat soak in. For the first time since the funeral, she felt something like breathing room. The week that followed passed in a strange rhythm. Mornings at Purple Leaf, afternoons with spreadsheets and supplier calls, evenings alone in the house that suddenly felt too large. Mikey had moved most of his belongings to a friend's spare room downtown the day after her announcement. He left without drama, only a cold parting shot. You'll hear from my lawyer soon. True to form, the papers arrived quickly. Raymond Prescott, known in Tucson legal circles for aggressive, high-conflict divorces, filed on Mikey's behalf. The initial demands were sweeping: half the appraised value of the marital home, half the increase in Purple Leaf's valuation since marriage, spousal maintenance for 5 years, and, most audaciously, a claim that a portion of the inheritance should be treated as community property due to marital contributions to family stability. Nema forwarded everything to Martha Leonard, a family law attorney Eugene had recommended. Martha was in her late 40s, sharp-eyed, unflappable, with a reputation for protecting women in uneven marriages. They met the next day in Martha's sleek office overlooking the Catalina foothills. Prescott is playing the long game, Martha explained, scanning the filing. He starts extreme, so anything less feels like a concession. But he's overreached. The trust kills the inheritance claim outright. The business predates the marriage. Any appreciation argument will be weak without proof of Mikey's direct contribution, which, from what you've told me, is non-existent. What about the house? Nema asked. Community property. We'll likely split the equity 50-50 after sale, or one of you can buy the other out. Personal property acquired during marriage is the same. But everything else? He's dreaming. Martha leaned back. Do you want to fight or settle? Settle if possible. Clean break. I don't want years of court dates. Then we counter reasonably. Offer fair division of the house and personal items. No maintenance, no business share. If he refuses, we show our cards, the trust, the investigator's file. Prescott will advise him to fold once he sees the strength of our position, Nema agreed. And if he pushes anyway. Martha smiled thinly. Then we push back harder. That evening Rowena arrived at the house with takeout Thai and a bottle of chilled Sancer. They ate on the porch, cicadas humming in the background. You look lighter, Rowena observed. Like you've decided something. I have. I'm done pretending this marriage can be salvaged. Rowena raised her glass. To freedom, then. And to whatever comes next. They talked late. About the shop, about Rowena's latest antique finds, about the old college dream of combining their businesses someday. For the first time in months, Nema laughed without forcing it. The informal settlement meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday in a neutral hotel conference room. Nema dressed carefully, charcoal blazer, white blouse, hair pulled back, professional, composed. Martha drove them both. Mikey and Prescott were already seated when they entered. Mikey wore a navy suit, hair neatly combed, looking more like a junior executive than the brooding artist she once knew. Prescott, tall and angular, offered a firm handshake and a practiced smile. Thank you for coming, he began. My client is open to reasonable resolution. Martha placed her briefcase on the table. We're listening. Prescott outlined a revised proposal: half the house equity, a reduced spousal support figure, and, still, the insistence on some recognition of the inheritance as partially marital due to length of union and lifestyle support. Martha countered point by point. No spousal support, no claim on purple leaf, house equity split after appraisal and sale, personal property divided equitably, nothing more. Mikey shifted impatiently. This is insulting. I supported her emotionally for 6 years. That counts for something. Martha's voice stayed even. Emotional support is not a financial asset under Arizona law, Mr. Queenland. Contributions must be direct and quantifiable for business valuation claims. Mikey leaned forward. You think you can just erase me? I know things about you, Nema. Things no one else knows. The room stilled. Nema met his gaze. What things? He smirked. You'll see. Prescott placed a restraining hand on his client's arm. Let's keep this productive. The meeting dragged another 40 minutes without progress. Martha finally suggested adjournment until after the will reading. New information may clarify positions, she said diplomatically. Prescott agreed. As they packed up, Mikey caught Nema in the hallway. You think your father's money will save you? He whispered. Has gone. You're alone now. She didn't flinch. I was never less alone than I am today. He stared, then turned away. Wednesday morning arrived, clear and cool. Nema, dressed in simple black, drove to the county courthouse with Martha and took her seat in the small probate courtroom. Mikey and Prescott sat across the aisle. Eugene waited at the front table with folders neatly aligned. Judge Harden entered, stout, gray-bearded, no nonsense. He reminded everyone this was a will reading, not a divorce hearing, and expected decorum. Eugene rose and began the formal presentation. He read the preamble, revoked prior wills, confirmed his role as executor. Then came the heart of it. All property I transfer to the Caldwell Family Trust sole beneficiary, my daughter Nema Elizabeth Caldwell. Mikey stiffened visibly. Eugene detailed Clause 7, the divorce protection language. Mikey whispered furiously to Prescott. When Eugene mentioned the sealed letter to be opened only if the trust was challenged, Mikey shot to his feet. That's illegal! He can't cut me out completely! Sit down, Mr. Queenland, Judge Harden ordered sharply, or you will be removed. Mikey sat, face crimson. The judge accepted the sealed envelope, broke the seal, read silently. His expression shifted from neutral to grave. This letter contains affidavits, photographs, and financial records gathered by a licensed investigator at Mr. Caldwell's direction, he said. It appears intended to demonstrate the motives behind any challenge to the trust. I will forward copies to the family court handling the related dissolution matter. Mikey paled. What records? This is slander. Enough, the judge snapped. The reading concluded. As people filed out, Mikey cornered Eugene. What's in the letter? Tell me. I'm not at liberty, Eugene replied calmly. Speak to your attorney. Mikey stormed off, Prescott trailing. That afternoon, Eugene called Nema. Come to the office tomorrow morning. Your father left a personal letter for you, sealed, to be delivered after the reading if the trust held. Nema arrived early the next day. Eugene handed her an envelope in Monty's familiar, precise handwriting. She opened it alone in a quiet conference room. My dearest Nema, if you're reading this, events have unfolded roughly as I feared. I never wanted to interfere in your marriage, but I couldn't stand by and watch someone take advantage of your kindness. You are stronger than you know. You built Purple Leaf with your own hands and heart. Don't let anyone diminish that. The trust is my way of saying live freely, grow boldly, love wisely. I've always been proud of you, even when I didn't say it enough. Be happy, my girl. You deserve it. With all my love. Dad. Tears came then, quiet, cleansing. She folded the letter carefully and slipped it into her purse. When she stepped back into Eugene's office, he was waiting. Everything all right? She nodded. Better than all right.